Do we just stand still until?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I'm,
don't breathe.
I hit go live, so we're live now. But
Okay.
so the reason I do that, like I can't take a space, is because YouTube takes like this buffer, and so like it's not like proper one to one.
Uh,
Like so we're talking now, and if I hit
mhm.
go live, it would have captured or it would have started from like 30 seconds to a minute ago. So if we were, so it could be kind of chaotic. Um, but yeah, so we are live now. We're here with the ETA folks. So um, I don't want to confuse anybody. I'll let you guys go round robin, and we'll introduce everybody and go from there. Um, and
Which
how do you want to start? Who do you want to start? Evie or the? We can start with the Toms. Tommy.
I have which way is which though? Like
um,
this.
so let's go. If
Just go.
just how about we just start? We'll let it. We'll start with you,
I say
Tommy. How about that? We'll start Tommy, and then
okay.
and we'll jump to everybody else.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Tommy from ETA. I'm the T from ETA. I mainly focus on product design. So I do all the CAD modeling, and then I also do some, you know, uh, what is it? Just like different. I'm trying to learn more manufacturing techniques like CNC as well on the side. Uh, I also help with like I guess like public relations and uh, outreach along with Tom, and yeah, just manage the team, I guess. Yeah.
Very cool.
Tom, I do most of the social media, you know, emails, customer service, the website.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And I'm Ev. I'm in charge of the sound and acoustics of the headphones for the most part. But of course, I work with Tommy to actually model things in the modeling software and also consult Tommy in terms of uh, what types of designs are going to work best with whatever manufacturing method we're using. And then
Okay.
I also work with Tom when we're developing new drivers and also talking about different designs to figure out what the community really wants in terms of what a new headphone should have in terms of features, in terms of sound, so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah, I think right now because we're such a small company or even a small team that we just kind of wear so many different hats. So like our roles are not very clearly defined right now. We just kind of do everything together.
That's usually the way of it. We were kind of chatting a little bit
Yeah.
earlier, like
Yeah.
especially with a small team, right? And I think that's really cool because you can. There's pros and cons, right? You can. I
For
think
sure.
in truth, you can iterate probably faster and more efficiently because you're small and concise and you have a good working relationship. But on the other side is you can have uh, how do you say like sorry, I'm looking at the screen was going a little bit weird there. But the cons I think could be is that like you're saying you could be in different parts of the country. They can be different. Like it's hard to coordinate just in general. Like across, like you get two people trying to coordinate, let alone three, and it's like
Yeah.
how it could be a task in and of itself. So,
Oh yeah, for
um,
sure.
but yeah. So what I diving into the next part, like I have a couple questions I want to kind of get through just to kind of get people to know who you guys are a little bit more, and then we can start, chatting and seeing what's what and see where the conversation takes us. But the big ones were like what brought you guys together, and then what really brought this about. Like what I mean, I get it. Like it's really this is cool. Like this is fun. It's enjoyable, and then like just the evolution, right? Like how did that how to go from the coffee table napkin to you know
Yeah. I guess I can kind of tell my side of the story, and then Ev and Tom can just kind of continue. So I would say um, we all started as like audiophiles, just like yourself and
Mhm.
everyone watching. We love headphones, we love audio, we love gears, and we used to just like uh, write reviews and impressions on the forum about like stuff we tried and like or dislike. And then for me, I was actually pre-med not too long ago. I was like working towards, applying to med school, and then COVID hit, and everything just shut down. I was just staying home. So what I did was I just picked up a 3D printer and then I learned CAD on the side when I was waiting for COVID to kind of
Come.
fade away, or yeah. And yeah, that kind of got me into CAD and modeling on like 3D modeling. And I've known Ev through forums before. Um, he's helped me out a lot when I always had like modding questions.
Hmm.
And then we've always like at the time we lived pretty close to each other. So sometimes Ev would come by and like let me try his like newest mods, and I've always been a fan of his sound
Hmm.
and his the acoustics that he provides. And I think when I got into 3D printing, I thought, hey, why don't we make something ourselves? And I was like, okay, sure. And then that's kind of how I started. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Very cool. And that's so. Any more, Ev?
Yeah, from my side of the story, like
None of
as
that was
far
true.
as,
No.
yeah, forget all of that. uh, for me, I've been active on various like online audio communities for a while. I really like trying a lot of stuff, but I never had a huge budget for my own gear, so I
Mhm.
think I kind of fell into modding as the main part of my hobby, more so than just buying equipment and testing it out. Because I really was obsessed with this idea of like how good of a sound can I get with the fewest materials at my disposal. If I get a really cheap headphone and then just spend a lot of time trying a lot of things on it, how good can I get it to sound?
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think through a lot of trial and error and learning what works and what doesn't work, eventually, I figured out what I would want out of a headphone in terms of its design. And then when I finally met up with Tommy, and Tommy was like, "Oh yeah, I do 3D modeling and like I have a 3D printer," we kind of just like became unhinged in the types of mods we were doing. We first started by like creating 3D printed parts that were mods for other headphones.
Mhm.
Um, but then, we started getting a bunch of sample drivers and testing out our own drivers, and then investing in some of that stuff. And yeah, I mean, eventually it just kind of like evolved, blossomed. I don't think when we first met, we were thinking, let's turn this into a business. We were just like some people having a good audio friendship in real life.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, it just kind of happened.
That's cool. That's usually the best way to kind of combine those things, right?
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, I met Tommy and Ev through a similar forum, and I just saw their posts. And I'm like they're you can mod headphones. Like I didn't even know that was a thing, and that became into like a whole line. And then after that line, they're like, "Oh, we're making something." I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool! I didn't even know you can even do that. Like, how do you even start?"
Mhm.
And eventually, I met them up in LA at their meet, and I was like, "Oh, this is like way cooler than I thought it could be." Like, there's so many different sounds. Like, that's one experience I really enjoyed because not only did I get to meet people in the hobby, but I got to experience different sounds, and that was a really big deal for me at that time. It still is. I
Mhm.
still love meeting people and hearing different sounds, but
Yeah, look, it's kind of that piece, right? Like meeting people. Like it's nice that we're finally starting to slowly roll back into that, right? Like being able to have meets and people are starting to be like, wait, we can come. It's kind of like the Groundhog's Day thing, right? Where they're coming out. Did they see its shadow? Can we meet now? And so people are tentatively, like, slowly, moving back into that and seeing what's available to coordinate and make happen. So, in fact, I met Tom down at the San Jose one. That was pretty cool. That was really cool.
yeah, it was nice meeting you.
So, um, so you guys all came together. You all had mostly through the forums, it sounds like, or from these communities, and then just kind of blossomed from there. And then, and I remember when I met Tommy like through. I think there was a bunch. I've interacted with you a bunch since I first started
Oh
getting
yeah,
into it.
yeah,
It's like it's funny how those like worlds kind of, you know what I mean, like
yeah.
kind
Oh
of
yeah.
kind of collide or kind of interact and move around there. Because I think it was the was it head not head five, but it was I think Reddit and I think through one of the discords. I think it was one of the discords initially that I was interacting with you. Then the obviously different forums and stuff.
Mhm.
So the next thing was I was trying to like keep the track on place, you know, and 'cause I have some other questions that keep popping up as my ADHD brain that I want to kind of touch on. But so you guys all come together, you form these headphones, literally, figuratively, and all this stuff, and now we're here where you're actually producing and creating and making and putting out, you know, a consumer good, which is like Tom was saying, like that's crazy. Like that, like I mean, how do you guys feel
Yeah.
about that? Like what is it? You know, you started here just as like this fun, like hey, we're creating stuff as you know buddies, and let's just keep messing around. To now, it's like you guys have an actual path that is now like a trajectory to a degree, right? And
Mhm.
how does that make you guys feel? Like, is that kind of surreal? Like when you just even talking about that now, like oh, we were just talking on the forums, and now we're pushing out headphones, like.
Oh yeah, like I still feel like it's a very surreal feeling that we're an actual company. Um, I mean, like the fact that we're able to do this, do something that we personally enjoy or personally feel passionate about into a business and a community with like our customers.
Hmm.
It's I'm very grateful. Yeah. And I think it wouldn't have happened without the community support. When we first initially announced that we're going to start making headphones, we actually had a lot of the forum members support to initially try our stuff because when we first started, like no one knows who we are, no one knows what kind of headphones we make,
Hmm.
and we need those initial uh, batch of like customers to really give us the feedback and um, reputation to continue as a business.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm just super grateful. Yeah.
That's very cool. Any other takers on that? No, Evie.
Yeah, I mean, we're always learning new things. I think it was a little bit of a rocky start. Our first headphone almost felt unfinished to a lot of people when we started shipping it, and there was a lot of back and forth with people who hopped in initially about, like how much modding they could do on the headphone to get their own sound. I had this idea of like, like build your own sound
Hmm.
profile, but a lot of people kind of wanted it to be locked in. So I think with each release since then, we're kind of like coming into our own in terms of our like house sound and brand aesthetic, and it's all constantly like growing and changing.
Hmm.
And yeah, like Tommy said, I'm so grateful that all those people who hopped on board at the beginning, who have followed us for a while, like on our own Discord server, and also just through personal DMs and meets and stuff. They've been really patient with us as we're kind of like figuring it all out. But yeah, I feel really good about where things are going, and I think yeah, 2023 and onward, um, we're going to become a much more solidified identity in the community, I hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe it, man. Like you guys, I mean, we'll get into some of the other stuff in a bit, like the sound and everything. But yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed. Like I just got these I think Thursday, and so I've only had a couple days with them. But really, and these are the new O2s, the on ears. Kind of. I think I showed them a little bit earlier, but I kind of dig that look, the see through, like see the I've always loved the thought of um like a like an amp with its top with like a glass top or a plexiglass top, like I call it the naked look, kind of
Um,
like the see through or like you can
yeah.
see into it. I think it's a really cool aesthetic, Um, but diving back into the process of how you guys were kind of moving on, and Tommy, you mentioned the 3D printing, and that's been a lot of questions I've been getting actually when I asked a couple of small groups, like what even
Mm.
questions you guys have for the ETA. And so, and Aiko asked the second kind of similar question: do you guys use filament or resin 3D printer? Like what's the 3D printing? So I don't know if I can get this in the close up, but you can kind of get an idea of the 3D print on this one.
The materials and the
But like
process.
what's that process? Like what kind of like fulfillment, or do you have plans? So it's a multi-tier question. Let's go that route.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
so like plans, and then moving on. What's the next iteration? Like so current to the next iteration, and what your future plans would be.
yeah, so currently we use for the O2 at least, we use carbon fiber TPU, carbon fiber polycarbonate or CFPC.
Mhm.
We like those because we like their acoustic properties and how rigid they are.
Mhm.
Like for example, TPU, it's kind of like this rubbery substance, like like what you find in your shoes.
Mhm.
And Ev, when he was testing all the prototypes, he noticed that TPU is actually a very good coupler for the drivers and also for the back. It's very acoustically transparent. And carbon fiber polycarbonate is just this really rigid stuff. Like polycarbonate, you see it in
Mhm.
like those like bulletproof stuff or like very
Yeah.
rigid for so it's good stuff. Like and the and for the future, we definitely plan on implementing more resin and also other additive manufacturings like SLA, MJF. I
Mhm.
think Ev actually brought some MJF printed pairs to Canjam, New York this year. And then everyone was just like, what is that? Like, I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
So we're always testing new different types of technique. Sometimes maybe we'll eventually incorporate like CNC machine stuff too, but that's
That's
maybe a little bit further out. Yeah.
takes a
Yeah.
bit to get there, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to make like I have two CNC machines in my garage
Oh
that
wow.
I've been building since like a year ago. They're almost done. One of them is like basically done. I just need to tram it. The other one, I'm like 75% there, so hopefully soon.
That's cool, man.
I'm
That's
I'm
impressive.
yeah, I'm like kind of learning like I've said earlier, when we did the initial launch for Genesis, we were all very new at this,
Hmm.
and I definitely made a lot of mistakes. I in my designs that when I look back, it's like, damn, I could have done this a lot better. Damn, I could have made this like that. And then, and then each iteration of products that we launch, I'm constantly trying to improve, like, what can I do differently for the next model?
Hmm.
And you can kind of see how our designs evolve throughout the years. And yeah, same thing with the manufacturing techniques that we use. I think we first started with carbon fiber PTG, and then, as we moved on and learned more about different types of techniques, we incorporated after testing which one sounds better, which one's more durable. We just keep evolving.
That's
So,
cool. Well, and that's dude. I think that like you kind of touched on a little bit there, like the kind of like when you make mistakes. To me, I think of mistakes as not like a proper like the way most people think of it as a negative. I think mistakes are a positive because then without those you wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't have grown. You wouldn't have learned. You wouldn't have experienced how to make these or
yeah.
what you're working on next. Or I think so. I think that that's really cool. And I think without those like that progression, you don't I don't know. It makes more sense to me. And it's also like goes into like the whole life thing, right? Like that's just the
Mhm.
way it is. You have to fall to get back up to learn to be better the next time, right? So Evie, do you have or Tom, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of mistakes to learn from.
Oh yeah, then if you're the social space, so that in and of itself is a whole beast of a of a thing.
Like every category I can think of. Oh yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you improve and you better yourself. You better everyone else. You learn the hard
Mhm.
way sometimes, and
Yeah.
that's the only way you can really improve sometimes.
Exactly, 100%. I'm an old guy, and I still constantly are like, "Oh wow, that was ooh, should have done this differently."
Yeah.
I think that's the day
Oh
you stop
man.
learning is the day it's probably time to hang up the hat, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I also want to take a quick break just so everyone can appreciate Evie's lovely robe here. It's fantastic. He is. It's early, or no? It's what time is it there for you?
It's 1:21 right now.
Early for a night owl. How about that? We'll call it that.
Yeah.
That's all right. I'm in sweats, so I can't really say. Coffee and conversations, right?
Oh yeah.
And then, so I guess the next stage of this, so we have like kind of the three, like Tommy, you're talking about like the 3D printing and kind of the design work, and then that gets done, and then EV, you then take it. Is that right? Like, so you're the one kind of more doing the helping with more the kind of sound signature and the tuning and kind of figuring that piece out and like kind of building it out from there, and then. Are you doing the final assembly, or is it like, are you guys sharing the assembly, or how does that work?
Right now, I'm doing all the assembly. So when someone orders a headphone, I build it to that order and then ship it out from my apartment, which is where the factory is currently located. We do have a new office that I'm slowly transitioning over to, but yeah, that's how it is for now.
So this is a real quick, I want as an aside, not really an aside, but like that is impressive. Like that's hard to do that, right? Like, I mean, that's like just for people's perspective. You guys aren't some assembly line with like conveyor. This is like a person putting it together. Like that's time, that's effort, that's a whole lot of.
It takes hours.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so it's
And then, yeah, and then
For
if
each one.
if you know Ev personally, he's like the most meticulous person I've ever met. He hand tunes each pair. He has like a measurement rig out, making sure there's like literally no channel imbalance for each pair. He like even before the drivers are put in the shells, like he's like always comparing. It's like, oh, is this good enough to send out to the customer? Oh man, like this one sounds a little off, and let's not use that. And then he goes into like different all the felts that we cut out for the mini series, and it's crazy how Ev does everything. Like
That's a lot of cutting.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a lot of cutting.
especially if you
for that
don't.
headphone.
Yeah, especially if you like. Yeah, I mean, depending on the what's accessible to you to do those things, right? Like there's certain things that can make it super easy, but they're probably stupid expensive, and like you're relatively fresh new business. Like there's you have to work for around those costs and those kind of things. So that leads into my next question is, and you kind of touched on it before, Evie, like your guys' search for your house sound a little bit, right? So what I've noticed in just the two, and then obviously the short time I've been able to demo, oh, my screen just blew up on me. So if I got real bright, that's why. The ones I've heard, there is somewhat of a house sound that I've kind of picked up on a little bit, and I dig on it because it's kind of like this neutral warm is what I would kind of more associate with it. But what are you looking to get out of your tuning? Like, how about that? Like, I think that's more important than what I am trying to, like, in my own head, figure out.
Yeah. A big part of a good tuning for me is this notion of accessibility in terms of like you put the headphones on, is a random person off the street going to think that it sounds good? That's part of it. But the other part of it is, trying to be accessible to any type of music someone might listen to, and also any equipment someone might own. So for me, you mentioned that you have some ADHD, and, I live with that as well. So my library of music is constantly evolving. I might be listening to some like oldies one moment and then be listening to like Mode Selector the next moment, and then just listen to some random stuff I found on Bandcamp that has only 3 plays or something. You know what I mean?
Totally know these feels.
So yeah, I mean, for me, like something might sound really good on one type of music, but like having a set of reference tracks and always only referencing those tracks is like kind of a flawed model for tuning for me, because I truly want a tuning that no matter what music I put on is not going to make my ears hurt, is not going to be like, oh, that sounds really weird. Like it must be bad mastering or something. It's like, I try to like not have any of those excuses. I try to not think, oh, if it sounds bad, it's because of my amp, it's because of my DAC. You know, I really focus just on the headphones and the music. So much of the tuning process is just making a change and listening. And I do have a couple of measurement systems, but I'll be honest, I only fire them up like after I've made my choices, and then basically just doing some checks that I'm not hearing something wrong or missing a small detail that someone else will pick up on. But you know, that's most of how it
You're
goes.
speaking to me, man. That's exactly how I like. I'm not a big measurements guy. Like I love that what you just said. Like there, I think that to me is. So here's what I like to call, and we used to do when I used to do search and rescue. One of the things, and we had this thing that they called the art of search and rescue. So like the art, so like it was how you did your job, right? And so they called that the art of your job, for instance, right? Just like there's like the art of war, the art of, you know, so like to me, that is art. Like that's your art. Like you created an art piece with your sound signature, and then you later would go back and just to check, you know, and that's what I think measurements are good for. Like what you just said, that's to me is how, personally, I don't think that obviously this is a hot take for me. I don't think this is the way or anything like that, but for me, that's how I like it too, because that lets me know your art, like, right? Then I can appreciate your art rather than it being just this, oh, I tuned it to match everybody else. You know what I mean? And then so that resonated with me. Sorry. That's the first time I've heard you say that, or, you know, so I think that's really cool. And I think that allows me to appreciate more. That makes sense why I appreciated these. And like in my video I did on the semi-closed and stuff, like I did really enjoy those. Like that was like some of the most fun, like listening I've had in a while. And so with that, the tuning, would you say going into the back to the tuning piece after my long diatribe ADHD stupid thing, I went off. Look, squirrel. but like for the tuning piece, like what would you say? Because I get that, like I totally get the balance. Like that's what I would say these are. They have that nice. I've thrown every genre at it. I think I mentioned in the video I did for the semi-closed, where it's like they just cross the board are excellent, which I truly appreciate. What would you say is if you could only pick lows, mids, or highs? How about that? Let's reiterate. I'm off the shoot from the cup. What would be your favorite part? The mids, lows, or highs?
I would say that some good bass gives me the most dopamine. Good mids give me the most engaging emotions. And the best highs for me is mostly just something that I don't notice if they're being messed with. You know what I mean? It's just about it being nested into the mids for me. So,
dude, yes, I love that. So that's my thing too. We'll get you guys for this next part too, okay? So like that's my thing as well. Like I love what you just said. Like I love like a bass for that huge engagement and like kind of like you're talking about the dopamine, and then the mids for that just like intimacy and like oh like you kind of get pulled into it, and then the highs to me, if they disappear and I don't, and all I hear is the detail or like there's no, that's when I'm the same way. Like I don't like I'm not big on highs. Which T is gonna start?
Tom, you can go.
For sound signatures, what matters to me? Oh man, I think I like treble a lot. I think
you're
I'm
a grado
guy. I think I am. I don't think I can hide
you.
it.
You and Jay would get along. You get along well.
I've owned Grados for a long time, and they've stayed here the longest. But treble, I think, matters a lot to me. You know, I have some tracks that are really in there with the treble, like I don't know, anything with the electric guitar is really like if it crunches too hard, sometimes it's like, oh man, I can't do this, or
like a hi-hat hits and you're just like you can feel your brain kind of
yeah. When I hear it decaying all the way to 18K, it's too much. It's too much. Sometimes they do that. No, I really like treble and mids. Bass is like not really third, it's secondary, but I do like extension. Like when I first heard like a headphone, I was like, oh, this is too much bass, but it's just extending further than most headphones, I think. If you don't have enough sub bass, I think you really lose a lot of the music part of the room.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, like when you can get that rumble, it really does kind of like the that engagement of like, oh, like you get that tribal almost like.
Well, the thing is, you know, any instrument has harmonics that
Mhm.
extend throughout the entire spectrum. So if you change your treble, then that will change how you perceive the bass. If you
Mhm.
change the mids, that'll change how you perceive everything. So it's kind of hard to even separate them into like, let's treat all these things separately.
Separately.
It's all
Mhm.
about it being part of a cohesive whole, you know?
Yeah, but for
Agreed.
me, my favorite frequency is definitely a boosted like 200 hertz. I
Fair.
just love that. I just love that in a male vocal. Like, oh my God, that's
Oh, that rumble, like right, like that. Yeah,
yeah.
very
Yeah,
cool.
I think they all matter at the end of the day.
True, 100%.
But but I think if I only had to pick one, I would say I'm a mids guy because I listen to a lot of vocals
Mhm.
in my music, even though I do listen to a variety of genre, and I need to have that presence
Mhm.
region. It just feels like you're there with the
Mhm.
vocalist, and
Whispering in your ear.
oh yeah, that, but I think everything is important. That's kind of like the ETA motto. Like we don't want to give out anything where you have to sacrifice the mids for the treble or mids for the bass. Um, we want the complete experience basically. Because we all three of us, we all listen to such very different music.
Mhm.
So, when we launch something, we want something that works for every music, not just like, oh, yeah, this will work for the mids guy, this will work for the bass guy, this will
Mhm.
work for the treble guy. And it's like it should just sound good with all music. So
Hmm.
that's kind of my
I
take.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, so I was talking to another buddy of mine, and he's a big. He's not. I mean, he's into like gear, right? But not like he's more of the artist side of the house. Like he did singing and he wrote music, and he's one of those he's proper musician, let's say, right? And so, and we always go back and forth, and we're always, and he's like a big like hip hop and like reggae head kind of guy, but he's an artist, so he also appreciates just across the board different just music. So like we were talking about that, and one of the things we kind of go back and forth on, like we're both in agreement, is it's not necessarily about the genre of the music. So like it isn't about country, it isn't about hip hop, it isn't about R&B or blues or jazz or symphony. It's more about the individual track and how that resonates with you, right? Like, so that's like part of my ADHD. Like, so I could not like a whole album, but there will be one song on that album that I'll just be like, it just pulls me, right? It just grabs
Yeah.
me. And so that's how I listen to music, is like, and so I'm jumping like all the time. Like you was talking about, like I'm if I hit my tracks on random, dude, I'll go anywhere from classical symphony, like like Hoedown, or like or even some Americana symphonies, and like all the way to Beethoven, to Greensleeves, all the way to like hip hop, like some Tupac, to some grunge band music, to like prog rock, so it's all over the place. And so,
Mhm.
and it's more about how each track grabs or resonates with me, or pulls me in, and less so about I love this genre and this genre only. Because to me, like I really enjoy hearing those differences, and it's such a cool trip when you go from one genre to another, and just especially if it's music you like, right? So if they're all individually music you like or tracks you like, you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, and then you can kind of like, it's like this weird like rainbow road of music where you're just constantly jumping from different colors and like
Mhm.
different like feelings and themes and what have you. So I really dig on that, and that's I do enjoy, like that's one of the things I was enjoying with these just over the short time I had them, and then with the semi-closed, was how much that was easy to do. And that's one of the things I always check. Like I first time listening, I always hit random on my playlist and just see where it goes. And and if I forget that I'm listening to headphones and I'm just listening to music, that's when I'm like, okay, these are good. you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
that's a key piece for me in listening.
Yeah, like before we were all into getting into this audiophile hobby, we were still listening to music back then. Before for me, I was just listening to with my MP3 player
Hmm.
with like cheap earbuds that I could find on Amazon,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was really about the music, and I want people in this hobby to kind of focus the attention back into the music.
Yeah.
Don't let your gear distract you or kind of like hinder your experience with the all the music that you have.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
If they can
I really,
disappear, go Evie. Sorry, you're go ahead.
I was gonna say, I really like the idea of the headphones we have so far, the mini series being like an exceptionally good quotidian headphone, meaning like it's a headphone that, I try to ship every headphone thinking that any one that goes out could be a headphone that I could use as a daily driver, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? And not feel like I'm missing out on something. But I also like to imagine the headphones that we have right now, the mini series, as kind of being like a cure for nervosa. You know what I mean? You put it on and it just sounds good. You don't have to think about like, oh, like do I need to like roll between these other different tubes? Do I need to change my transformers? Do I need to like change the oversampling mode on my DAC in order to
Yeah.
get around something? Like,
Constantly plug in other things to find the perfect synergy.
yeah, exactly. Which I mean, that stuff is still fun.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Like changing your amp, changing your deck should feel like something that you're excited to do and look for those upgrades, but not feeling like something like, oh, I just bought these new headphones and now I have to go out and spend $6,000 on a deck to get them to sound good. Like,
Mhm.
Amen.
So
Not that I'm
yeah.
religious, but sorry. But yeah, dude, no, like I agree. Like I find that, especially as I'm diving further and further, and I think that's a path, right? Like people take different paths. Always, everyone has their own path, right? We're all our own protagonists to our own stories, right? Just remember that everyone around you is also a protagonist, not an NPC. I always love saying that. treat people nice. So, and there's that diverging path, though, right? Where I feel like there's certain people, and this isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying this is bad. This is just people. Like that's just so you have to accept it, and like that's cool. Like find their own path, and it's fun talking to these people about their different paths, and that's why I love doing these and talking to you guys. But I feel like there's people in the audiophile hobby, and this goes for all hobbies, but they branch, right? And then they start with the core of it, which is I like music and I love listening. Ooh, Martin, thanks for joining, brother, from Germany. So I feel like as you start in, right, you're still learning, you're growing, and then so kind of like how we talk about the forums and meeting everybody, and you're kind of like, oh, how does this sound? How does this sound? And then you start to move into the things that bring you. I'm gonna steal a Marie Kondo thing that bring you joy or spark joy, right? So like, is it the gear collection aspect of it? Is it the diving into every little detail and nuance of a track and trying to pick it apart? Is it or is it just the I like to call it the lean forward or lean back kind of music listening session, right? Like and so you start moving that way, or is it about like I said, the gear? Like you want to find that synergy, and it has to be that perfect synergy, and there's that hunt for that, and it's and all forms of that to me is chasing a dragon, right? Like that old tale of like, it's a bad drugged in conference, but it's like the concept is relatable in the sense that you're chasing something that is impossible to catch to some degree, right? And so, but that's the chase. I think that there's that joy in that chase more so than if you ever did find the full perfect thing for you. I think it's more about the journey, and the end of it is usually kind of not as gratifying as people think it is, So what's your guys' take on that? Like, yeah, because we talked about your guys' perception of what you find enjoy in Spark. Like, so what do you think about how that is, like the different aspects of these hobbies or this specific one, and being that you are, you're kind of deep into that, like you have, obviously a love for music, you have a love for making this stuff and making, headphones, and a passion for it enough to where you literally went out and did it, which is, dude, high praise. That's awesome. Like not many people do that. Obviously, because there's like what, maybe 100 different headphone makers in the world, like, So what's your guys' take on that? Like,
So I'm just gonna start here because I really want to say what I'm gonna say. I feel like between the three of us here, like we all kind of approach things differently. I think Tommy really loves gear, and he has the fanciest gear among the three of us.
I've seen his
And I
speakers.
love that because he represents a whole culture of audiophiles that are really into collecting gear, finding that perfect synergy upstream, which I really respect. For me, I'm very zen about things. I'm just like, I have my headphones, I have my music, and everything in between just kind of melts away. I don't want to think about it. Even though I still have some fancy DACs, some fancy amps, and I have big speakers, that whole thing too. And then Tom is like a bit more invested than either of us, I think, in the creation of music, the production of it, the gear that goes into creating that sound during the aesthetic process of making the content that we consume. So I think between the three of us, we all kind of have like
A piece
these
of the
little
pie.
niches. Yeah, filled exactly. So yeah, that's my whole bit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Anybody
Yeah, I
else?
think I think Ev summed it up really nicely. I think all three aspects of the hobby, they're all part of the hobby,
Yeah,
and
yeah, 100%.
nothing is less or more than the other. I think we need to, instead of trying to like say which one is more right or more wrong than the other, it's just like they're all together. We need
Yeah,
to appreciate all of it together. Yeah.
exactly.
I mean,
Agreed.
gear's cool.
Yeah, Gear's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love toys. I
Gear's
love new
dope.
toys. I get
Sometimes
that
you just want
dopamine
to
rush too,
hear
right?
something a little different, and you want to figure out what's different about it.
Yeah, dude, I agree. Like one of the things I also like to say is like I'm somewhat of a hobby collector, right? Like I always love. My wife gets super. It's part of the ADHD thing, I think, right? Like, but I like to say I like to dive into hobbies until I hit the crazy, and then I'll either I'll keep going down the rabbit hole or I'll scale back a little bit and go, okay, that might be not for me, like because I fight with that too. Like with Eva says, like I love to be chill and just be like, there's a like at the end of the day, what got me into headphones was, I couldn't listen to speakers because my daughter was, young, sleeping, nighttime, that kind of thing. I wanted to play video games. I wanted to watch movies or listen to music. And the thing that pulled me into headphones was I'd sit down at the end of the day, wife and daughter were going to bed, and I had like a 30-minute hour window to like just. And so listening to music on headphones while like sipping on a whiskey or just a tea even or whatever, and just having that fall back in your chair and just be like, oh, like that was like a slice of heaven for me, So that was what got me into it even more. And then that made me dive further down that rabbit hole of like chasing that dragon a little bit more of like and then that experience of, oh wow, this sounds completely different on these headphones or on this amp or on this, and then I went down that rabbit hole, and then eventually I found my way back to just listening, right, and like enjoying and going back to the music part of it and doing that sit back. That's been my core of it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, actually, Aiko, good one. So Aiko asks, out of curiosity, what is your favorite album using an ETA headphone?
Ooh.
Oh,
That's tough because I listen to at random.
Yeah. Hey.
How about this current favorite track? What's your number one current favorite track as of now? Like just it doesn't have to be like a favorite all time, just now, like the most recent thing that you've been listening to a lot of, or that you maybe repeated a couple times in the last week or something.
I liked Gosh by Jamie XX a lot on the O2. That's one of my favorites.
When people ask me for favorites, it's like the hardest question for me, especially music, because like
I know, right?
there's so many good
good ones.
out there. Yeah. But I would say right now, I've been listening to a lot of Tracy Chapman. Baby Can I Hold You? That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Tracy Chapman, fantastic, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me this question every hour, I'll give you a different
I was
answer.
gonna say too.
But I actually don't listen to a whole lot of like slower vocal music. But lately, I've really enjoyed Blossom Dearie, who's a vocalist with a really long career that I never heard of until recently, and she has a track called "I'm Shadowing You," which I think is probably a standard performed by a lot of different artists. But I just love the effortlessness and like how smooth and just easy listening it is on the headphones. But at the same time, I'm also like really into breakcore music right now. So yeah, I've been listening to like Meta Room, which is just like really crunchy, squealy synths, and it's just, I don't know, it's all good. I'm just excited.
That's cool. I would say for me, I'm same as Evie. I'm looking at my liked songs that I liked in the last like couple days, and I have like 30 random tracks. So like, and they're all over the place. But I'm just gonna pick one that was kind of was brought to my attention, and it kind of resonated with me as like So I'm in my 40s. So I grew up with like 90s hip hop, right? Like that's something that really I came up with. And so there's this new band called the Same Olds. And they're like a new band, so it's a new hip hop group, and they kind of sound like 90s like Wu-Tang mixed with like that 90s aesthetic, but it's like a new age group of hip hop kids, and they're pretty dope. If you like you know, hip hop and rap and that kind of stuff. And they could say some things that are not appropriate, but like that's part of
I like
hip
that.
hop
Yeah.
world, you know, like. But they're having fun. Like it has that hip hop fun energy. You know what I'm talking about from like the '90s, where it was like more about like telling a story and being like kind of, you know, naughty by nature or that kind of stuff. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? And Wu-Tang
Yeah.
Clan, they had that
Yeah.
kind of like jump around kind of feel
Yeah.
and like that kind of even Beastie Boys kind of deal, you know?
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of something I've been listening to recently.
Nice.
The other piece was, as I say, God, I've been listening to a lot. I mean, I'm all over the place. Like I listen to a lot of, I call it feel good music. So, you ever heard of the band Surface? They're on. They blew up because they have like a lot of like really chill music. But I was listening to them for the past couple of years, and they just been constantly putting out new tracks. It's just super chill, like pop, feel good music. I don't know how to call it other than feel good. I don't know really the genre, but like I just call it feel good music. But they're called Surfaces, that band, and they have a bunch of good tracks. Anyhow. Aiko says, Jamie XX, gosh, he says that slaps hard, so he appreciates that one. I'll have to pull that and listen to it. I haven't heard that. So.
Nice.
So diving back into some more ETA stuff and kind of your guys' take, and then we'll kind of jump into some more we can get another conversation going about some other stuff. But last kind of question I have that's kind of for the whole, like the rest of you guys, and like kind of more interviewee type question, I guess, is where do you guys see yourselves in like the next 3 to 5 years? Like what's the, or are you just kind of shooting from the hip, or you guys have ideals or ideas of what the next things are, or you know, what's the do you have any, I mean, if you can say, like, what's the next iteration? Do you have plans to go, you know, bigger headphones? Do you have plans, is there anything you want to push into other realms? Do you want to do speakers? Do you want to do, I mean, I don't know, like the world's your oyster, so I mean.
Yeah.
Speakers would be cool, but I don't think we got the room or the woodworkers for that yet.
Fair, touche. Yeah, they're a whole nother beast.
I would say for headphones, we're going both direction. There's like we want to try to see if we can do smaller and bigger. Um, I don't know how much we can say right now, but there's plans for everything. That's kind of our thing. Like our motto is like we try everything. No matter what other people have said, whether they said they're good or bad, we just try everything and we rule out ourselves whether they're good or bad, you know.
Yeah, agree.
And I do want to try speakers as well. Maybe also get into like turntable area, but that's like such a far like down the line.
Not impossible though.
Yeah.
Not impossible, but it's definitely turntables and speakers are definitely tough. Like I have my my turntables back over there. I'm trying to. That's part that I was talking about before to you guys, like trying to figure out this space that I'm in. It's not really made for content creation like this. It's more just I just put my stuff in here and then start whatever. Like you're talking about, like, so back there's my little editing desk where I do my all my editing and stuff for photos and video. But like that is tough. Like the turntable aspect, right? Like. Sorry, I went down in the rabbit hole. I need to.
Oh no, no,
I went. But I was gonna say, like that, like trying to find that coupling, because you can't put them, like, you have to have your turntable in a certain spot and then having it near your speakers, vibration. There's all sorts of factors that come into that. But I think that's the record playing aspect of music is great for me as an ADHD person, because it forces me to listen to a whole album. And so, like, because, you know, I mean, 'cause you put the needle down, you drop it, and like now you're there. You can't just be like, work. I mean, you could, but it'd be, but yeah, like you listen to the whole album. And it really brings me into this like Zen moment, right? Like where you kind of like, okay, this I'm dedicating time to this, and this is what I'm doing, instead of trying to like ping everywhere. Sorry, that was my weird side thing. But turntables would be sick. And I like the idea of different headphones. I love that you guys are iterating. Like, that's so cool. Like, I think that's key. Like, that you can be flexible to, like, pivot real quick. Like, okay, well, hey, hey, this actually worked out really good here, but I wonder if it was in a smaller form factor, or I wonder if it was bigger, or I wonder if we did this tweak or that tweak. That's kind of, it's really cool that you can do that, without having it be too big of a like swing or lift in one way or the other.
We do that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, our design library, like, we're producing 3 headphones right now, but like our Fusion library with all the iterations, like it's just complete chaos and madness. It's a whole maelstrom of just random random stuff.
Yeah. Like
But
when Ev asked for me to go back to a specific revision of a specific headphone prototype, I'm just
Yeah,
like,
weeks
okay,
ago.
which one was that? I was like, it's like I'm like digging through the library. I'm like, I don't even know which version is which. And just like, it's crazy, yeah.
yeah, I will say, Tommy was talking about branching into like kind of the more even more budget ultra utilitarian, and then also on the higher end kind of thing.
Hmm.
I'll say that, with our current products, like kind of just an emergent property of our designs based on the tuning that I prefer, the use case I prefer. We've kind of like converged onto the particular form factor we have now that's like on ear or almost on ear, mostly just focusing on the driver and its stamping and the enclosure just kind of getting out of the way.
Hmm.
But I think in a bigger headphone, in a more high-end headphone, we're adding a lot of complexity in the design, a lot of more intricate geometry, and I think that we're expanding on material.
See, kitty cat, as I say.
Yeah,
Cat.
expanding on the materials, the looks, and then also trying to craft a more statement, more unique piece has been a huge undertaking compared to like what we have now. So, yeah, R&D is insane. Uh, we've tested 80 different drivers for our next headphone.
Oh wow.
And there's more still going on. And yeah, I think one of our headphones that we basically like tried a bunch on and then gave up, and then now we're bringing it back. Like, I don't know, there it was probably 400 iterations in it or something.
Yep.
So yeah, expect big things, but with how meticulous and completely like Nervosa prone I am in tuning, it might take a while, but we're getting there. But yeah, I'm really excited for what's coming up.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. I have actually Illustrator. So I have suck at pronouncing.
Lysander.
Yeah, like Lysander. There you go. I'm horrible at pronouncing things. So just as a heads up, if I ever butcher a name, or it's because I just, for whatever reason, my brain just does it. It sees words and it's like, maybe it's a weird version of dyslexia. But I'm like, anyways, so I want to talk what he just asked questions, because that was something that I want to talk on. But there's 2 things I want to ask before that, and one was, and this is obviously, it's a kind of a tough question in the sense that it's not easily answered, but it's not a hard question. Do you ever worry or stress, like as you're doing these iterations, that you're like, oh, did we maybe leave one in the rough? Is there a diamond back there in the rough kind of thing? Like, did we maybe go swing too far, and then maybe there's, but which one was it? Like, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Without having, because you guys have this, I think this is like an artist problem too. Like, I'm considering you guys artists, right? So think of it this way. Where you're like, oh, did I over edit that part? And where do I go back to find that perfect edit? Or, you're looking for an audience, right? So you're trying to present your art to the audience, and maybe that's the swing you went too far. Maybe the audience would have liked, you know what I mean? Like there's like one that just clicks with people, and like, does that ever bother you a lot? Like, or do you just keep going and just say, nope, we're just doing our art and we're putting it out?
I think it's a balancing act, because when we first launched the Genesis, our very first headphone, we were just like, I don't care what anyone says. This is our sound. We're just gonna do it. And like some people still love their pair to death till this day.
Mm-hmm.
They're like diehard fans. And there's like another branch of people. They're like, this sounds way too different from what I'm used to, so I don't like it. And then when we got those feedback, we were like, okay, then what if we can find a sound where we don't have to compromise on our ideals, but still make something that works for both groups. And then that's what I think Ed was talking about, how our sound has been evolving over time and finding the right balance. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's important. Like I think like what Tommy was saying, like you mentioned it too, and I want you to. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but like kind of further flesh that out. But I think it's important to stick with what you like, and then because if you do what you like, even if other people don't like it, there will always be that crowd that do like it, and that's your tribe. That's what I like to think. Like you're finding your tribe a little bit, right? So sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say that I think with a lot of our headphones that came out so far, so much about crafting the sound has been about getting the tone in a really nice, accessible place. But I think in a higher end product, one that sounds good on anything, but also scales really nicely on better equipment, the balancing act has been about finding a way to maintain that accessible tone while also enhancing the transient response and soundstage and imaging, which I think are things that more technical listeners are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're working on it. But I think we're getting there.
Yeah, like speaking on that, like there's my time with the semi-closed and just my short time with these so far. I think that does that these two that I've heard over a longer period of time do kind of find that balance a little bit. Like I love it when headphones allow you to get lost in the music, but then if you want to lean in and kind of like close your eyes and like try to pull the details out, if they make that easy to do, I think that's what kind of these have that capability too as well, right? Like they have that ability to sit back, lean back, and listen and enjoy, but you can also lean forward and kind of pick apart the details. You can dive into a track in a different aspect if you really want to, which I think that's really nice to be able to do, and it makes it more enjoyable.
Going back to your original question, which is like the when is it done paradox.
Good enough.
Yeah, I think like as we're iterating, what I'm looking for in my own experience is a sound, a comfort profile, all these things that quiets my mind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So normally when I'm iterating, if I notice one thing being even remotely off or distracting in my listening, I'll just want to change it immediately. Mm-hmm. But if I land somewhere where I can listen to it for a day and then sleep on it, wake up the next day, listen to it again, for a whole week or something, and not feel like, oh, I still want to change things, then I start becoming more confident about it. But even then, we'll still continue iterating. I'll keep that pair built from the previous iteration and keep it that way, mm-hmm. so that when we're still making changes, I can go back and reference that other one to say, are we actually making it better? Yeah.
That's cool. So
that's a part of how it goes.
That's really cool. So it's kind of nice, like you get to a nice, how to kind of phrase this in a way. So like it's like you crack open a geode, for instance, right, or like a stone, and then you find this one perfect gem on it, right, and you're like, oh, it looks so good like that, but you have a twin version of it, and you end up going, well, let's see if we can make it look nicer, and you end up polishing it until you get to this part of it, and then you go back and look at it and it's like compare them and like, is this, how did it look better? Like can you maybe go that route kind of thing, right? That's kind of cool. All right, yeah, I think. So next kind of subject I wanted to ask was, Lucinder asks, he thinks that I'm assuming this ultra budget is viable. He doesn't think one's viable unless it's a passion project. So if you're doing like an ultra budget, so I'm thinking something like a Cost Porta Pro. What else is like an ultra budget? Like the Costas really have that game locked down, I think personally. Yeah. As far as like on ears or like a headphone, maybe something like the what's that KC or the Harman headphone, the K7 or whatever the Harman headphones are like under $200. Maybe, but like, what would you think would be a ultra budget like headphone? Like, what would be something that would you guys, like, what do you make something ultra budget? Like, you know what I mean? Like, sorry, that's a weird question, but like what, like, so like there's a Cost Porta Pros. Would that ever be something you'd be interested in doing, is making something that's like a, $40-$50 headphone that you can just be like,
I will say that
really tough.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, I want to hear from Tom.
I think that's really tough for a lot of reasons, because one, the headband, if we were to even just buy the headband for the Cost Porta Pro, it costs almost as much as the Cost Porta Pro. So achieving their same price point with
they've had
that headband
almost
is
100 years.
impossible.
Yeah, they've had almost 100 years making that thing, so they have a lot of manufacturing in place.
Unless we can make 1 million headbands, I don't think that price point is achievable. Maybe a little bit above that, but trust me, I'm pushing. I'm pushing really hard.
That'd be cool. All right, so I think with that, like, I want to kind of dive into more about like what you guys are all about. Like, what's some fun stuff that you guys do that isn't audiophile? Like, what's a hobby? I already know. I think I know one of Tommy's already. What outside of the headphone game, the audiophile game? What are things that you guys like to do? Like you know, maybe name like 2 or 3 other hobbies that you have that you think are that you kind of get lost in.
I'll go first. I've been modding retro consoles lately, and I've been advising one of my friends. He got this whole FPGA system. He bought this old TV, and he's been enjoying that. He's been enjoying old animes on a CRT. And he's experiencing how it's kind of supposed to be. So
yeah, dude.
I kind of just try to give guidance to some people and try to find what they're passionate about and make them happy.
That's cool. Dude, that CRT game is ridiculous, man. Some of those CRTs are talk about another rabbit hole to go down.
Oh yeah. I saved them a lot of time. I was like, all right, Sony Triton.
As I say, Sony Triton, you're done. You never did the freaking the gold standard. What about EV, Tom?
Yeah, you can go first.
Yeah.
I'll go last.
Even though it's like, New York in winter, and I guess winter's over now technically, but it's been kind of gloomy and not that exciting. But I really like camping. I like going outside. I also like working out a lot. Just keeps me active. It keeps my mind on point. It like keeps my ADHD in check. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But also like, I sing in a choir. I am a musician. I'm a gamer, and so it's just. I don't know. I just like doing a lot of different stuff. I have hobby ADHD too.
That's same.
Yeah, I think my issue is I might have too many hobbies. So I would say like the big branch that all kind of ties it together is like my hobbies are very DIY oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love making things out of nothing, and like for example, like the CNC machines I was mentioning earlier, I've learned so much just from the experience. And I've also built my own speakers in the second floor, and then like restoring turntables, old turntables from like very vintage era, like
the ARs and stuff like that.
I have a Gerard 301 that I found back when like the euro prices were like tanked, and then I got the model, and then I like modify the voltage, and change out the old parts to new parts, like the wheels, idler wheel, and then putting my own tone arm and different carts, modifying the damping. It's just like I just love the DIY aspect. I think that's what kind of pushes me out towards different hobbies that's relevant. Like even for audio, I've like modified my tube amp. I like swapped out the transformers, resistors, capacitors, tubes, and just like I think that kind of drives my interest and passion. Like I do have other hobbies like that are not DIY, like like guitar, soccer, and working out. But I think my core is basically DIY.
DIY. That's it. I love that too, because like it's DIY is such a cool. Anytime you can put your own hands on something or make it so it's yours, I guess, right? I think it becomes more. You connect with it more. I think, right? Like you can like my bottlehead crack I built. Like that'll forever be something that's like I'll always have it because it's like it's mine. Like I built it. I put all the little weird mistakes I made in it or whatever, right? Like those were my mistakes. That's my sound, I guess, out of that. tube
Yeah.
amp and how I paired the tubes and what have you. Like, I think that's anytime you can do that, I think is really clutch in finding like a connection to that hobby, right? Too, like, so I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and then like I would say those mistakes are not really mistakes, but it gives character to the
Puts hair on
item.
its chest. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I've definitely made my share of mistakes on, the projects that I built, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, that makes it mine because no other projects have that little mistakes or little tiny imperfections, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, Bob Ross from The Joy of Painting had that famous line where he's like, "We don't make mistakes, we make happy accidents,"
Yes.
like that.
I have that shirt. I have a
Dude,
t-shirt.
Bob, I remember I grew up because like my parents, we only had an antenna, and my parents didn't let us really watch TV, and so we only got like PBS, and so it was Bob Ross, and when Sesame Street was still on PBS, it was like Sesame
Yeah.
Street and Bob Ross was like everything, dude. Did you see that they're making a Bob Ross like spoof movie? Have you seen that?
Yeah, with Owen
Owen
Wilson.
Wilson, yeah.
Bob Ross.
Oh, nice.
All you paint is this mountain. It's the same mountain in all your pictures. Yeah, man. Yeah, classic. Dude, no, yeah, that's freaking awesome. So, I guess, well, we're at an hour, so I don't want to hold you guys up for your whole Saturday and everything. So, I guess what we could do is end on. Actually, let me see if there's any questions real quick, and then I was gonna do a final kind of let you guys ask some questions and see what maybe of yourselves, or we can all, like, you can each come up with a question and we can all answer and see where that goes. Let's see. So we asked one of the guys, the Haikyuu, am I pronouncing that right? Haikyuu, the
Haikyuu.
anime thing.
Yeah.
That we talked about that, how he wanted to know what your thoughts were on the final season being a movie instead of a season. And then I think the other questions were, we kind of discussed that too. That one of them was how you guys landed and developed like your drivers, or you just, which you kind of already talked about, how you kind of just keep going until you find the one that resonates or you think is what it fits what you're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that okay that I kind of summarized that, or do you guys want to touch on that more? That question.
I mean, I could talk more about it, but I don't know.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
No, let's talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Ev can talk very lengthily about this stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what's interesting about my philosophy on headphone tuning and design is that I actually think the driver is one of the less important parts of the build. I think most drivers are actually pretty competent, but if you get the right pads, the right damping, and the right acoustic layout, I think most drivers are capable of sounding really good. That being said, we spend so much money on drivers because I hate imagining there being a bottleneck at a fundamental level in the driver. So I'm like, okay, how far can we push it? Basically, we found a driver supplier who built them to our specifications and was one of the only suppliers who was willing to change things on a per unit basis and give us a lot of samples without requiring us to order 2,000, 10,000 units at a time.
That's cool.
So for that reason, that's why we've tried 80 different kinds. I've also worked with some other suppliers, got some drivers off the shelf. But yeah, one of the things we've been focusing on lately is really focusing on like the minutia of the motor assemblies. So what kind of magnets you're using, how they're laid out, like how large the voice coil gap is, what are the pull piece materials, and then also adjusting parameters on a very small scale about, how thick the diaphragm is, like, are we using more or less mass on the diaphragm, different coatings, and then with the voice coil, you've got different metals, and then the frame, different metals. There's just so many variables, you know what I mean? A lot of drivers are so similar to each other, but we're trying to really push out to extremes just to kind of explore what's possible, what hasn't been heard before, to try to find some new sounds. So
I have a real quick thing on touching on that real quick. Because I'm not an engineer, I'm not like, that's not my, I'm not a scientist, but like, what is it that changes with, let's say, the gap in the voice coil, like the way the trace lines are, or like the way the metal laid out? What are the changes there? What are the changes in like the material for like let's say like a speaker has a paper cone, or like a a different type of like a whatever the different materials are in that sense, right? Like the driver, the actual cone of the driver, and then also like, for instance, like does a thickness matter? Like you're talking about, like what are the changes that come with those different variables in those things? Like in your experience, like what are those variables, and what are you looking for when you get those to, I don't know. I'm kind of just I'm being curious. Questions hard to formulate.
I mean, I'll be honest too, I'm also not an engineer. I don't ever work with numbers when I'm deciding things about how the driver's designed, how the housing is designed. So a lot of the time I'll just read a lot of information online about what people have done with loudspeakers and then think rationally, would this matter in a headphone or not? A lot of the times loudspeakers are designed to be as, light as possible with the voice coil, have a really rigid and light diaphragm and these things, because with loudspeakers, it's about being able to produce power, volume, having good power handling without generating too much heat. But in a headphone, it doesn't matter as much, or like a headphone driver doesn't have issues with high frequency extension a lot of the time. So some of the things that we're testing out are things that maybe haven't been tested at all before in a headphone driver, mostly because we're just curious about exploring what could be possible, what hasn't been done. So I'm not going to say, we're making these decisions based on some theoretical principle about what's better. It's mostly just about seeing what is possible at all, what's new, what can be explored that hasn't been explored, with this mentality that what works really well in a speaker driver might not be the same as what works really well in a headphone driver, because they're different things.
Nearly every aspect of a driver affects the sound, like whether it's efficiency, total output, stroke, breakup patterns, specific frequency response through the surround or the diaphragm material. We want to see how far we can go, and I'm gonna be honest, we're going pretty far.
We've got some wacky stuff going on.
Hey, no person should do what we're attempting to do right now, and I think that's the funnest part about it.
Well, that's actually really cool, going unexplored territory, right? Which is pretty cool. It's always cool. So, so let's dive into the next question. Then would be, there's some kind of easy ones. Before starting ETA, what were your favorite headphones? Do you have favorite headphones before you start ETA, or is it just?
I was like my Greta 60.
60, okay.
Yeah, I had an 80, but that one broke, and that's when I started the hobby. So.
Gotcha. I guess that's a good one. Like, what's your, just in general, like the headphone that kind of brought, like, so the SR, the 60s, and then like, so what would be a headphone that you just can't let go? Like, that's your,
Yamaha headphone 3.
Yeah. For me, Sennheiser, any of the HC6X0 series, like 650, 600, and 580. Yeah. It's a classic for me.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, all the headphones I own, they didn't stay stock for very long because I just love tinkering. But one of my favorite off-the-shelf headphones was the ZMF Icon, which was recently discontinued, actually, and the O-Tour as well, which I never owned either of them because they're a little bit out of my price range when they came out. But I always really liked them. But
I love the O-Tour. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Cost Porta Pros. I've owned like 4 pairs of Porta Pros.
They're like in every bag. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. I'm a big ZMF fan, so if that's not apparent, I think I even have.
Where's your purple Verte and stuff?
Oh, there's my purple.
So pretty.
Atriums.
I love that they match your sweater.
I like purple a little bit.
A little bit.
And then I have, what else do I have? Oh, they're up. My VCs are actually in. I'm getting ready to send them back to Zach, I think, here soon, just to get like a quick polish and what have you. And then I have my VOs. I have my Pro VOs are up there. I have my Aeolus in I have another behind this like rack. There's another like closet thing that has a bunch of my other headphones in there. But I've actually pared them down a lot. I'm down to just but I have the lineup of ZMF, and then I have
Nice.
like nothing really else outside of that, to be honest. I have a couple. I have an HD 700 that everyone dislikes a lot.
Mm.
But I really enjoy it for playing video games. Like it's to
I
me,
can see that.
it's like one of the best video game headphones that are out. It's expensive for a video game headphone, but you can get them relatively cheap nowadays. But I really enjoy
I
that
think the
headphone.
design is so cool. I've
Yeah.
always wanted to mod a HD 700, but it never felt like plopping down the cash to get a used set. But I
Yeah.
think there's some interesting things about it.
So like these are the ones that I have the ZMF. If it will focus, if I can get there, we go. So I have the ZMF. It's like the crescent strap. You can just strap it on things, and then I have has like a Dakoni pads on there, and then I think it has the resonator mod where it has like they put the felt. You put the felt on the inside to help with the reflections and stuff like that. Things like treble deal. But yeah, these things are super moddable. And then the form factor is just real slick. It's like a it reminds me of the HD 800s, but in a tiny form factor. Yeah, it's much smaller form factor. And I have the HD 800s too, which are, those are another set that, I have those. They're modded as well. I have the SDR mod and that kind of stuff in those. And those are also fantastic for a lot of stuff. But actually, those are my favorite with my bottlehead crack, is the HD 100. Anyways, sorry. Another quick question is, this is an interesting one, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Daniel Foster asks, how about an internal power amp, no batteries required on an I'm assuming a electrostat set. Like, is that even, like, I'm not, like, how would that even be a thing?
There's a person building one of those. I forget his name, but he's very famous. I saw an interview of him on the San Francisco Audiophile Society. I forget his name, but I don't know what the regulations are on batteries and stuff, and I don't know if you can ship them.
I'm just going to be real. If I was going to design a power supply for a headphone that needed its own power supply, it would be for a field coil and not for an electrostat.
Because electrostats take a lot of power too, right? Or they, it's not power.
Bias
it's like
voltage.
Yeah, it's like
Bias voltage.
Yeah,
it can be 5 volts.
Electret. He says electret.
Electret.
I don't know.
That's even less voltage. Yeah, you can do 5.
5. Okay. Electret. So it is. I'm just not familiar with that. So what is an electric? Like it's like that, like a specific. It's like electrostat, or is like what is the? I'm not sure about that.
Sennheiser had some, so did Bear Dynamic in like the 80s, 70s, but I don't know.
It probably has a bit more overlap with the like condenser mic technology.
I see.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
He's saying anti-gravity craft, no battery. Okay. And then would you guys? And then Igo asked, would you guys do an IEM in the future?
It'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool. We don't have any plans.
Yeah.
I have a pet project right now, working with earbuds, because earbuds are kind of just like the ugly middle child of a personal audio transducers. I'm like, okay, well, what's wrong with them? How can they be better? Can they be better at all? So like, there's no plans for a product launch, but I've been playing with them for a bit, and I think it's interesting. So.
I love the idea of the earbud, to be honest. Like that, like the classic earbud with like little foam. You remember the foam, like they came with the Sony Walkmans from like the way back in the day. Had a little foam that just wrap around the whole like earbud.
I got some right here.
Yeah. Exactly what I'm talking about. Like there was a couple that came out like a while back. I remember when I first was getting into speaking of like ridiculous, like we went to Ireland recently, and this is what they had. I haven't listened to them yet, but like the dollar earbuds from like airplanes. But anyways, I was gonna say there was a couple, like when I first get in the hobby, like I remember drop was all the rage when I was first really. That was 6XX and all that fun stuff. It was like 5-6 years ago. 7 is it 6 years now? 7 years? Jeez, dude, time is so weird now. But they had these ones, and it had a weird controversy. I can't remember. There's always some weird controversy in the audiophile world if you go too deep into the Discord or the forums. But like what was there was like this one bud that was like, it was all the rage. It was you couldn't hook it. It was like all, it was, pre-done, so it was just the wires. It was only like 15-20 bucks, but I mean, all IMs these days can be like, it's like a race to the cheapest possible. But anyways, it was like a cool little earbud, and it just sounded really good for, this $20 thing that you could just earbud. And like everyone was like not really digging on it because it was an earbud. It wasn't the in ear. It was like, more of like the AirPod style, right? Like,
Oh,
Is
know,
it
the
the Zen?
Elon?
yeah, it was like it had like the coffee. It had like a weird like logo on it, and I can't remember exactly what it was. But I remember I bought a set from Drop. I think it came in like a bundle. I think it was like a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, wow, these are really good. Like I forgot how good earbuds could be. You know what I mean? Just for the simplicity and ease and like
The Monks, maybe?
Monks. Thank
Monks,
you.
yeah,
VF
Monks,
Monk.
that's the one.
VF Monk. Yeah, VF
I
Monk.
just bought a pair of those like,
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah, I had the espresso. I had the espresso. That's all I could remember is it was called the espresso.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I was like,
Well,
Yeah.
the thing about earbuds that attracts me is that when you don't have a front seal in front of the driver can move a lot more freely. So the high frequency extension is usually a lot better than an ear monitor. So they have a sense of clarity, sense of transient response, quickness that I think is lacking in some, in-ear monitors around the same price. Of course, the only issue with the earbuds is that because they don't produce any seal, the bass usually rolls off really early. So I have some ideas about how to get around that I'm kind of messing with. But they're all really jank and ugly right now, so I'm not going to share. That's how it always starts. But I think it's cool. I'm excited to explore that.
It'd be interesting, like if there's a way to like create an earbud that maybe somehow you could seal it better. Like I guess you could use foamies of some sort, like some kind of. But then it's like how much of that's going to be a comfort factor, and then so many other like variables that will play into, like so it's kind of like a headphone that sounds really good, but it's like torture to put on, right? Like it's like that like how much of it the sound is worth. Like it's kind of like how like the women like I don't want to make this weird, but like so like some fashion people like to say, beauty is not like it's a pain thing. Like pain is part of the beauty, like wearing high heels or like, you hear stuff like that. Like it's not comfortable, but I sure do look, like yeah, I think that would be really cool. What was the headphone that came out that kind of did like tried to do that a little bit? It was like they had the weird little like earbud that would go in your ear, but then had the neurophone.
Neurophones.
Yeah. Honestly, it was too much for me. It looks like some weird alien, like
some probes.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be interesting. It'd be really cool. Like that, I think that's really cool. Like what you're doing, trying to like figure that out. That'd be really cool to see what you end up iterating on. All right. Well, I think I've already pushed it past an hour, 23 minutes now. Let's do round robin on questions you guys have. Like any things you guys want to ask each other, or ask me, or what have you. How about that?
Yes. Oh, I have one. So what got you into the whole purple thing? You've always liked purple? Or?
So I was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle kid growing up. In fact, here, I'll show you my buddy.
Oh, nice.
It's Leo. I didn't get Donnie, but that's almost real size Ninja Turtle action figure. He's about almost 4 feet. But Ninja Turtles, my favorite Ninja Turtle is Donatello. So I actually have a bunch of Donatello action figures and that kind of stuff. So I think that, in fact, I have random purple stuff all over my desk. That's at the end of the day. Yeah, I think it was just, I think that, and then it was funny is like, as a dude, it's hard to like girl colors, I guess, right? And I just always been like, who cares, like, am I any less masculine for liking purple, or you know what I mean? So I've always been like, I don't know, I've always just liked the color purple. It's just one of those things. I've never really been too big on flaunting it overly, but like it's definitely, as you get older and less cares are given, you start to just be like, whatever, I like this color. That's it. But yeah, I would say probably the earliest memory would probably be because of Donatello from the Ninja Turtles, and I always resonated with Donatello over the other ones. So,
Cool. Yeah, I think purple has kind of become like part of your identity now.
yeah, a little bit.
Viewers see you, so I think it's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, purple is definitely. I love the color purple, man. I even have the purple iPhone. So
No, that looks good.
yeah, very very clean. Anybody else? Anybody? What? Any questions for each other or?
Just say I'm a fan of green.
Gr-
That's
Green's a good color, man. I think that's it's a solid. What brought you to green?
oh man, I think tea.
Oh,
Tea, and it reminds me of my grandpa. He used to
mm,
like chew on mint leaves all the time, so I like the
that's
color
cool,
green.
dude. Yeah, that's actually, dude. I like a fresh mint sprig. Ooh, it's very delicious. All right, with that, what's up with that? What is everybody's other favorite color? How about that?
Hmm.
Blue,
Blue. That's fair.
but
Fair.
there's so many variants of blue, so I don't know.
Ev likes
Yeah.
Merlot. or
Oh, yeah.
or what's the color? What was the other one? What was
A Cabernet.
Maybe a
Cabernet? Yeah, he likes Cabernet.
Maybe a burgundy.
Burgundy.
Yeah. I just like any color that's like slightly desaturated or off or mixed with some other color. Pure colors are like not my vibe, but if it's just a little bit off, then I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I could look at that
Maybe
for a
like
while.
a light pastel.
Yeah,
Like ooh,
I'm not picky.
yeah, dude, pesto. And then now you're making me want some pesto, man. Jesus, sounds delicious right now. I do like Prince. That's one I do. I've always liked Prince. He's a fantastic. He was a ridiculously good.
I
Hey,
just got
Keeb.
into Prince.
Mhm.
Dude, he's got some crazy music, man. Like, and his whole like discography is like it's so cool, man. He has some really cool music that you can dive into. Then it changes. Like he I mean, it's always more or less similar, but he has such a talent that I don't know. It's kind of like Michael Jackson a little bit, right? Where they just
They're not really tied
Mhm.
down.
Yeah, they
I
almost
like
made their
that
own
too,
genre.
Bad Dance by
Oh.
Prince. That song blew my mind.
Yeah, dude, like especially his later stuff. Yeah, like or even like it's you. Everyone thinks of Prince. I guarantee you, the first thing they will think of is Purple Rain.
Yeah.
Like, and then you can't get around that. Like everyone's gonna be like, Purple Rain. It's like, no, dude had like thousands of tracks. When he died, did you know that they found like literally thousands of different music tracks that he had just been recording for years and just never put out?
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Aiko asked, would you guys ever think of doing custom colors for your headphones? And Keeb,
Yeah.
what's up, buddy?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes is the answer. Yeah.
Yes. Of course.
I know we kind of mentioned like potentially using different manufacturing techniques like resin and
Mhm.
MJF and SLA. Those all have very different colors available. So yeah, we're definitely open to more custom
Yeah.
version
Yeah.
outside of our dark gray carbon fiber color.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Carbon fiber likes to stay a certain color.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
But if
That's
it's not
fair.
carbon fiber, then other colors are available.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be kind of interesting. Colored to like, wow, is there a clear? Can you do a clear? Is that
Yeah,
even
we
a
can.
thing?
We can.
We've done it in the past.
That'd be interesting,
Yeah.
like an acrylic see-through clear. That'd be interesting. I think that'd be a kind of a unique. I don't know. Now I'm like intrigued. Like we were mentioning before, I don't think we were on the. Sorry, my brain started going like thinking. Like I'm a huge fan. We were talking before we started the stream, but a little bit. I love the idea. I call them like the naked amp or like the naked, like being able to see
Mhm.
through and see how things work internally, even if it's just circuit board, right? Like I think it's just such a cool look. Aiko says he's waiting for Tiffany blue before he buys one of your headphones.
I will say
there's-
that clear,
Go on.
while also being scratch resistant in additive manufacturing, is very difficult
I was
to
gonna say,
to get, but it would be really cool. So we'll explore that.
yeah, I can imagine like on this probably wouldn't be the best, like the overall, but maybe if you could do it in like just the window part of it, maybe like if you could, if someone find a way to do that, that might be
Hmm.
interesting. But
Unless
I mean,
you could like CNC like plexiglass or something.
like an
yeah.
acrylic or like or
Yeah.
like a something that's more durable. But yeah, that'd be sick. Well, the HD820s, they did the Gorilla
Oh yeah,
Glass.
Gorilla. Yeah.
So and there's actually more to that. Did you ever read into why they chose that and like why like how that worked? They designed it to where the sound would reflect back into the resonance of the side or the dampening in the side of the cups. So like it's designed a very specific way to like bounce and kind of spread.
That's why it has that concave shape.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
I always thought that looked really cool.
Yeah, I think those are some of the prettiest headphones I've seen. Even though those are another like hot take headphone that a lot of people are not. It is what it is. Helium housing closebacks. Yeah. I'm gonna have to look up what Daniel Foster put out a bunch of stuff. I need to look into. Yeah, he had put a bunch of like cool information. I want to look into some of the technologies. But anyways, any other questions? Like I don't want to. It's 11:30. We've been an hour and a half. Anything else you guys want to talk about or?
Yeah. So you go to get some sashimi. What's your fish of choice?
That's tough. 'Cause I love sushi, man. I'm a big fan of scallops, but I really also really enjoy a good cod, like a real fresh cod, like a black cod even, you know? So not in the normal ones. I mean, obviously you could say salmon, but that's just like I think that's kind of it's like the peanut butter of sushi, right? Or vanilla ice cream of sushi. God, that's tough, man. My favorite one that I'd always go for. You know, I do love the. It's not really, you know, scallops aren't obviously a fish, but like I do love the scallops. Scallops have always been a big fan of mine. Trying to think of another really good fish. I've always loved cods. The cods are always good. God, I'm trying to think. Usually it's a whitefish. I usually like the whitefish ones, like you know. But yeah, that's tough. I'd say I'm gonna go scallop. I'm gonna stick with scallop because that's the first thing that came to my head. I think that's the knee jerk.
Nice.
Very cool.
I would say for me, it's probably eel.
Ooh.
Yeah, eel tastes pretty good.
Yeah, eel is pretty good.
Yeah.
The unagi sauce and
Oh,
Yeah, I love eel.
Uni sashimi. Aiko says, "Oh yeah, uni is good." Sea cucumber. That's another unique one. There's just so many. Like just well, you know one. What's one that you just can't stand? How about that? Like one that's just not for you.
Oh,
like
know.
I already have mine pretty hard, but yeah.
Okay, because I love shrimp when it's like grilled and fried, but then I can't stand raw shrimp.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
weird.
Tommy.
I can't stand it.
Mine's
I tried
mackerel.
it.
Mackerel was
Okay.
mine.
Really? I
Yeah.
love mackerel. Like,
It's too fishy to the fish oil
Okay.
factor.
Yeah.
It's overly fishy to me. So yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I don't like swordfish for that reason.
Okay.
Yeah, but I love raw shrimp and like lemon juice.
Oh, man.
Oh my god.
Well, I will say a
Ceviche?
really good ceviche.
okay, I do like ceviche, but
But that's different because the
when I had
the acids are
Yeah.
cooking it technically.
I
So,
forgive you, Tommy. I forgive
Right.
you. Okay. You say you like
But-
ceviche.
But like, I don't know. Like, I went to like I think Sugarfish at the time, and then one of the menu item was like raw shrimp sashimi,
Mhm.
and that was like one thing I just did not like. Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't imagine the texture was good.
yeah.
What do you think? What's one you just don't like?
I honestly just think it depends on the chef who's preparing it and how
Also fair.
fresh and quality the fish is. You know, like, there was a time when I thought I didn't like sushi because it was just like, garbage gas station sushi in
Yeah.
Central Texas. You know what I mean? But I went to some place with
There's
Tommy
no ocean
last time
nearby.
when I was visiting LA, and it's like everything we got was like the
Just like,
best thing
oh,
I ever
yeah.
put in my
Just
mouth.
like-
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Dude, you know what I've had that I didn't realize what I was eating until I was like, till it was like a joke they were playing on me kind of thing, and I was like, it was super unique and interesting, but it was jellyfish tentacles.
Whoa.
Mm.
Yeah,
What does that taste like?
nothing. It's all about the texture. They're like
It's
super
kind of like
crunch.
chewy.
Yeah, it's chewy,
Yeah,
crunchy. It has this
chewy.
like crunch chew. Like it's a very weird texture. And they just doused it in like this soy sauce, hot sauce stuff, and like it wasn't really a flavor, but it was just they look like glass noodles a little bit, right? Like a bit thick, like almost like udon, like udon noodles, but they look like glass udon noodles. You know what I'm talking about, like the glass noodles.
Like vermicelli stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But thick, like a udon. And I was just like, what kind of noodles are these? These are weird. And I was like, they're like chewy, but they had like this crunch, and it was like, yeah. And then finally, after I'd eaten a bunch, they were like, "Oh yeah, those are jellyfish tentacles." And you're just like, I mean, cool. You know, that was always that was such a weird experience because it's all about the texture. But that was
Mhm.
kind of like the what's it called? What am I blanking on? It's the little shell. It's like has an orange in it. That's sashimi, like the urchin, the sea urchin. You know, that can be a little bit too much for me too. Like almost anytime it goes too far into the flavor of tide flats, kind of. You ever gone to a tide flat and smelled like the tide, like the
Yeah.
you know, and it's like has that super like seafloor
best.
smell. Yeah, like
Yeah,
there's people that love that. Like just go like for me, like that's for some reason like sometimes I'm okay with it, but other times it goes too far, and I'm just like, whoa, that's
It needs to smell. It needs to taste fresh, not
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah, it has to be super fresh for that to be viable. Yeah, agreed. Well, we've got to see sushi. Started with headphones, talking about sushi.
ETA sushi. coming
ETA
up.
sushi, let's go.
Oh, the sushi roll, bringing it back.
Yeah.
You could do little like you ever seen the little the keychain things, the little sushi keychains? You could do like little like embossed little sushis. You can maybe make a line of some very specific headphones that named
Yeah.
after different sushis.
Unagi.
Yeah, the unagi.
We used to have this acoustical resistance dampening system, and we called it the sushi roll.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, that was like the
uh,
original ETA mod was sushi rolled
Yeah.
Fostex headphone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Dude, yeah, dude, I love sushi. I've always been a huge fan of sushi for the longest time. It's amazing how many people don't like sushi. But I think it goes back to what you're talking about. Like a lot of the people that have had it didn't like it were usually people that were landlocked or like they never had proper fresh real sushi. And it's like once you have that proper experience, it's like I need more of that.
Yeah.
I think food tastes different when it has to travel.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, anytime
I've
they
had
freeze
apples-
it.
Yeah, I've had apples in Canada, and they do not taste the same as in California.
So we just got back from Ireland, right? And so, I've been to Amsterdam, some other, and it's funny when you go outside the United States and you start eating like these foods outside where they don't have as many preservatives, they're not shipped as far, they're not frozen as long, they're not, whatever. Like it's crazy. Like, dude, I could spend hours at the breakfast bar buffet at a hotel, and it's like hand over feet better than any breakfast place I've been. And this, even like high level stuff. And this is just regular hotel food. You're just like, how is this so good? Like fresh cheeses, fresh lox, fresh like everything is like it's crazy. Going to like even like we always do this test. My wife and I will go to like a Starbucks in like Australia, or like we went to Amsterdam, we went to Starbucks in Ireland, that kind of stuff, in Singapore, and like it's crazy the difference of quality of food, even at a Starbucks, where it's just like this whole other like, it's just so good. It just feels more fresh and has such a different take. Like it's not as sugary, it's not as overly salty, it's like has a better balance to it. I guess I don't know. I mean, I'm going too deep on a random ass topic, but yeah, like it's fantastic when that happens.
Yeah. I just had a mango from the Philippines like a few weeks ago, and it was the craziest mango I've ever had in my life.
Were you meeting up with Keyboard?
No. My in-laws, they brought me like a bag of dried mangoes, and I could not stop.
dude.
It was
Philippine mangoes, like especially
crazy.
like straight from there, they're dry. Oh, you can go to find a Filipino market. You can find them. They're so good.
I have, but this one was like the next
Legit.
level. It was, yeah.
Have you ever had calamansi, the calamansi juice?
Oh, yeah, we have a tree.
Yes. So good.
Yeah, calamansi on a pancit or something.
Yeah. Oh, dude, there's a place that's local here. It's called Hood Famous, and one of my favorite little cafe places. They do ube lattes, like so they actually do like a latte with ube juice. It's so sweet syrup. Oh, it's so good. But they do calamansi bars instead of like a lemon bar. It's a calamansi bar, and it's like, dude, heaven.
I'm getting hungry.
I know, right?
Salivating.
For reals. Yeah, that's freaking awesome. sorry, we went another 20 minutes past just talking about food. So what do you guys think? What do you want to do for a final send off and let you guys have the rest of your day? And I'd love to eventually have you guys back on again too, if you guys want. I think this is
Yeah,
fun.
maybe
Do like a
maybe
deeper
we'll have
dive.
something that's purple next time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Why you gotta play with my heart, man? Yeah. What do you guys? So, what do you guys think? Let's final roundup. What's actually? I have a good question. Kind of on. What are your thoughts on this? Like, how have you done these before? I think you guys have done interviews. I think you guys, Tommy, you did one recently, podcast.
Yeah.
Like, how does this? How did this go to you guys? How does this? What was this experience like? I guess.
So compared to my previous podcast interview with Steve Gunberg, it was, well, the first thing is I wasn't expecting it. He didn't tell me anything about it. He just said he wanted to call me.
Okay.
And then so I picked up the phone and then he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, this is gonna be a podcast episode." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I had no time to prepare. It's just
Surprise!
like, okay. Yeah, and
That's
then
part of it.
yeah, and then I guess this one felt more like homey, like just felt like we're just talking at a coffee shop. Yeah, so I loved it. Yeah.
Felt a lot like our design meetings.
Yep.
Okay.
We're
That's
just saying
cool.
random stuff. It's like, what about this? It's like, no, I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I hate scripts, so the more I prepare something beforehand, the worse it comes across. So I like just having a chat. It's a
Yeah.
lot more comfortable.
I'm that is so someone always like people always ask me that, like they're like, do you script or do you script? I'm like, dude, I can't. To save my life, if I did, I'd be this guy. I'd be blah, 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 and it'd be so wooden and just like ugh.
Yeah.
And it's not. I'd rather just everything I do is off the cuff because it's fun and it takes you down fun rabbit holes like sashimi and I'll try to remember general ideas of things I want to talk about, and then that's usually how I kind of format. Is I try to go, okay, these are the things I want to get done, or people have asked me to ask these kind of things, and that's where I'll be like, okay, well, boop, 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 and I'll have like a big, broad, generalized question that I could then, in my head. That's what I try to do. But that's cool. Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to shoot for with these. That's one of my things to kind of like give like a behind the scenes a little bit, or my thought process on why I like these so much is I love talking to people and artists and creators and people in general to get to the human of them, right? Like that's my idea of it. Like you're not your product. I mean, you are, but like there's more to it than just you guys making headphones. You're people. You have unique things that you love. You have unique thoughts and processes. You're dynamic. There's things that and it's fun having conversations. It's fun meeting people. It's fun. I think also for audiences and the people that love your stuff to see the people behind the stuff that they love. Right. I think that's cool. I think it brings a better understanding of why they potentially might like that stuff, or why it brings connection is what I guess, and that's what I like about it. So that's why I like doing these. And thank you for jumping on with me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for, giving us the opportunity to come here and just have this conversation. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Well, no, thank you guys. Without you guys, we wouldn't have, beautiful headphones and some, fun things to talk about and art. I think that's key. Keep making, keep being creative, keep creating. So, yeah. Any other final thoughts for you guys?
As they say, you should create every day.
Yeah, so my wife calls it the forever goodbye. So I'm always like, oh, ADHD. Yeah, oh, there's something I think of that's be great for that. And it's like, I don't want to push too hard on it, but the create every day. But it's always, I have a question for you. But we'll end it on this question. Sorry. What's the hardest part about doing anything? So you doing these things, right? What would, to me, and I guess I'll pre-stage it. So for me, anytime I want to start doing a photo or a video or anything like that, or anytime I want to be creative, the hardest part for me is always just starting. You know what makes sense? Like just
The first
doing
step.
the very
Yeah.
first step. The first step is always the hardest. Like,
Yeah.
is that something you guys have found as well? Like, do you ever find yourself sitting there and being like, you just need to do this one little thing, and then once you do, it's like away you go. But
Yeah.
like just doing that one little, it's like how do you get over that hump sometimes, right? Like,
Yeah. For me, just like tying it back to ETA, like my job as a designer, I try my best to basically make Ev's vision into reality. But when Ev's vision is something I can't create,
it's like aliens. Like,
I was like, I don't know how to do that on CAD. But then it kind of pushes me to like figuring out like relevant techniques on CAD that I can try to learn
mhm.
on the fly and try to incorporate and kind of like, you know, get around and eventually lead to something that is manufacturable. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Uh, I'm totally unhinged. I ask Tommy for a lot, and I feel like at every single step, we're constantly butting up against the limits of the tools we have at our disposal, which is exciting because it really feels like we're pushing the envelope in some ways, but it's also really frustrating because it's like, well, I want this thing, but we can't have it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think with that in mind, though, for now, I think one of the biggest hurdles is, I'm constantly modifying things, doing things very rapidly and almost haphazardly until I find something I like and then I narrow in. So for me, a lot of it is like finding a way to make something look polished and presentable at the end, making it look nice, making it look like something someone wants to buy. Because I'm so focused on the experience that I'm not focused on the object. So that's one of the things for me.
That's fair. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. That's cool. Tom?
I think just being brave enough to share.
Yeah, that's true. That's like jumping off the bungee jumping. It's like that's true, man. Like I'll tell you right now, like that's something that like I had a real hard time with. That's because I'm more of on like the content creation side, like where I love taking photos. Like that's something I find a great piece in, right? Like in editing and putting that out on the internet, like your photo. That's something. It's like well, like even you guys all know this. You put these out, like it's like that.
Yeah.
Like
I saw a photo you took of a waterfall, and I was like, whoa. But like from your end, you just see me like it,
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, whoa, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
And I just shared,
like that. Sorry, I'm doing the forever goodbyes really bad. But like that, like so you guys actually have a community. You have the Discord. I didn't link it below, but I can if you like. After this is done, if you're interested in me doing that.
It's also on our website.
Yeah,
it's on the
just
website.
do the
Okay,
website,
I have the
yeah.
website below. That like how. Sorry, this is the last question, I promise, and we'll end it. I'll be good.
You're doing great.
can go
You're
on.
doing great.
That like tell me more about that. Like how is that? Like because to me that's so crazy. Like it's such a heart palpitating, like it's almost like a first kiss to some level, right? Like if you ever, you know what I mean, where it's like you're putting this thing out into, you're like, oh, are they gonna accept this? Is this, like because it's just something you're passionate about, you care about it, it's something you worked hard on, it's something that's, and then if somebody and there's some really not nice people on the internet, man. Like, let's be real, right? Like, so, like, and I've always just told people just ignore those people and keep doing you. Like, don't even, or like give them a like if someone says something nice or mean to you. Just don't engage.
I
Just,
like stuff all the time.
yeah, just boop, and then move on. But like, what
I would say different customers and fans show enthusiasm very differently, and sometimes you're like they didn't tell me anything, but like they still they support us. So it's like, oh, I mean, I don't know, they love us and they like our products, and they don't really communicate at all outside of that.
which is a good thing usually.
Yeah,
Happy customers don't say anything; they just disappear.
yeah. Sometimes we're like, man, we wish like those people would, say
engage.
something, but
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
but not everyone engages in the same ways, and but we recognize them. We're like, oh, there's that person again. It's like, wow, man, okay,
They like it.
And then, but some people are like very vocal in different ways, good or bad. But it
is what
online
it is.
Comments come in different ways. Whether it's a like, a heart. That we
No,
appreciate all of it.
agreed. Agreed.
I know Ev definitely has some stuff to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm pretty sensitive to criticism a lot of the time, and sometimes I don't take people's comments very well. So I've
Yeah.
kind of learned for myself to just take a backseat on that stuff
Mhm.
and just if my teammates are proud of what we have, if I like what we have, that's enough for me. And if people like it, that's great. If they don't like it, then maybe we'll have something they will like in the future. Maybe they'll just move it on. Maybe they'll send it back. It's okay. It's just
Yeah.
a drop in the bucket. So.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I always tell people, especially when it comes to internet, right? Like we're right now we're live, so it's a little bit tougher. Like we're on, you have to think on the fly and be able to iterate. But like when you're dealing with a chat or you're dealing with a comment or you're dealing with like a forum or a Discord, you have all the time in the world to stop, reread, rethink, walk away, come back, and then respond appropriately that you feel that is appropriate. And not, I always say, don't respond in anger, especially, and then, or in, if you're feeling even overly enthusiastic about something too, sometimes it's good to be like, wait, how, maybe I need to, maybe I'm being overwhelming, maybe I'm, you know what I mean? Like, so that it could go both ways, but like I always feel like that's something that people forget that they can do because they get so, like tunnel vision, and especially when it's something you care about or it's passion, and not even from like a creator side of the house, but even from like a person that's someone that's like, they bought these and they're very passionate about it, and then they just, and it can be both in anger and in love, like, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. So sometimes it's good to be like, come back. Let's.
Well, I will say this. I don't know how other manufacturers don't like jump off the walls like in excitement when they release a new product, because it's really exciting and it's really fun to finally be done with something and be like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like I think this is the greatest thing. But like you read what they write and you're like, oh, this
It's
is it
like,
good? Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a product if people didn't love what they created.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to add on, like I think um I've had my share of good and bad interactions. And then just like when we put out something, it's after going through millions of iterations and design sessions. And when we decide to finally put it out, it's scary because anyone and everyone on the internet can try it and give feedback, and sometimes they're not the nicest, and sometimes like you really shouldn't, but then you're kind of curious like what other people think of
Mhm.
your product, and then sometimes what you find is not not what you expect.
Mhm.
And yeah, and even though we should never take it personally, it
Oh, it
hurts. Like,
happens. It hurts.
yeah, we're people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also good amount of like um positive feedback and the love that we get, and I think that's what kind of pushes us to continue and go forward. Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, I make plenty of mistakes, dude. Like I'm not, I think we all of us, like I said, mistakes are there to help you grow and become better. And I've definitively responded and I know better, but I've responded in anger. I've responded in, other things and different things. But because you get caught up, and even I'm sure I'll do it in the future because that's just part of being a human, right? Being a person and we have cares and feelings and everything like that. So I think with that, I think it's important to just remember that we're all people. We make mistakes, and as long as it's not something super egregious, I think we could all be forgiven for our sins, I guess. To say.
Oh, yeah.
Our hot takes and our,
Oh,
But I think that that's important, though. Like I think people recognizing when even when people are responding in an angry way or responding in a happy way, is being able to appreciate that person in that point in time is going through whatever they're going through, and maybe just stepping back and going, okay, you can have that. I'll just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've learned already, and I think it shows.
Yeah. No, you guys have a great presence, honestly. I've found, at least in my interactions that I've seen.
Yeah.
That was good.
what I always try to think is that, if someone gets our headphones in their hands, whether they like it or not, at least they put the effort into hearing it in the first place. They're interested in our ethos, they're interested in what we're doing. So, just because one thing might not jive, they're still here to support us. They still know about us. So that's already a win.
Yeah, agreed. I think that, and that's it. It's I always say it too. It's like finding your tribe, finding your community, finding the group of people that matter. Not that other people don't matter, but like the people that resonate with you. Sorry, that was he like say stuff like that. It's like that could be taken completely in another direction. But like, but I think that's important. Like the people that want to interact with you will interact with you, and I think that's the community. It's awesome. So. I think on that note, that's a good note to end on, right? Like we have the great community, and keep iterating on that and moving forward. And yeah, thank you so much, gentlemen. And I look forward to interacting with you more. And yeah, I think it'd be fun to do. I love doing these. So anytime you guys want to do something like this, just let me know, and I'm always happy to, and always ping you guys too or whatnot. Like I think these are fun. These are such a good way to dive into people that are creating really cool things. So
yeah, thank you so much, Tyler, again.
Yeah, gents.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. No, thank you guys. This is huge. I always love this. So appreciate, keep creating, keep making these awesome headphones, and I will see you guys on the lovely Discord and on the internets.
All right.
All right, cheers everybody. Thank you for joining. And we are done skis. So
all right.